This video is part of the You Protagonist series. Here, you don't just hear a story, you live it, down to every detail and emotion. Scene by scene, decision by decision, you are the protagonist of this story. And to make sure you can truly picture yourself in every moment, the main character's face never appears, and neither her name nor physical features are ever mentioned. So take a deep breath, close your eyes if you'd like, and get ready to feel everything as if it were real. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single story that could very well be your own. The clock read 5:48 a.m. when you finally managed to lean against the corner of the break room. Your scrubs still carried the scent of alcohol, sweat, and urgency. The hospital was quiet, but your mind was still racing like it was in full-on code red. The routine wasn't new anymore. Long shifts, double shifts, patients coming and going, some leaving behind gratitude, others just silence. But no matter how used to it you were, something still ached inside you. It wasn't physical exhaustion. It was something else. A feeling of always being on the sidelines, of giving everything to everyone and still being invisible. You looked down at your hands that had cradled newborns and comforted grieving mothers, and wondered when exactly you started losing yourself. Maybe it was after the last heartbreak. Or maybe it was on some random day between one medication and the next, when you realized no one saw you beyond your role. The sun began to rise through the windows of the main corridor. That golden light touched the porcelain floor and spread like a whisper. You walked slowly to the nurse's station, where the coffee from the vending machine was already waiting like an old friend. It was in that moment, still holding your cup, that you felt it. You didn't hear footsteps. No one said a word, just a presence. A quiet, firm energy that seemed to slice through the air. You turned your head and saw, on the other side of the glass wall, a tall man in a dark suit, talking to the clinical director. It was him. You'd seen him from a distance before. The owner of the hospital chain. The name behind the badge. The man who ran that hospital empire with the precision of a scalpel. Always surrounded by assistants. Always serious. And according to gossip, always seen with women who looked like they stepped off a runway. You lowered your gaze. He wouldn't notice you. Not here. Not like this, with your hair pulled back in a messy bun and dark circles under your eyes from days without proper sleep. But even so, something lingered in that moment. A strange feeling that, just for a split second, he felt your presence too. You shook the thought away with a sigh, tossed the empty cup in the trash, and went back to your station. That morning, while filling out reports and checking charts, you couldn't help it. His image kept slipping into your thoughts without permission. And along with it, a question you didn't want to admit was bothering you more than it should. Why, out of all the people in that hospital? Was it him who stirred something inside you? Was it the exhaustion? Was it some silly fantasy of living a soap opera love story to escape the draining monotony of your days? You didn't want to admit it, but you felt it. And for someone who had learned to survive by shutting off their feelings, that was terrifying. The day went on like any other. A packed ER, shift changes, arguments between residents, and endless calls from the admin floor. You held it together like always, professional, alert, invisible. But deep inside, the morning's strange feeling still echoed, that presence. By late afternoon, a major emergency hit the ER. A man was rushed in after going into respiratory arrest from a severe allergic reaction. The pace intensified, voices rose, everything turned into a blur. You moved with precision, administering meds, guiding interns, staying focused. But in the middle of all the chaos, something caught your eye that didn't belong. Him. Leaning against the emergency room door, silently watching everything with an unreadable expression. You pretended not to notice and kept working, but a chill ran through you. It felt like his gaze cut through the room and landed straight on you. Even through the meds, masks, and tension, he was looking right at you. When the patient stabilized, you stepped away to catch your breath. You washed your hands at the sink in the back, and as you looked up at the mirror, You saw his reflection, standing behind you, at a respectful distance, silent, present. Was it you who led the nursing response? His voice was deep and low, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. You nodded, still facing the mirror, trying to stop your fingers from trembling. Well done. You moved faster than some of the doctors. He paused for a moment. How long have you worked at this hospital? You answered. And he listened, really listened, with a kind of unexpected attentiveness. No fake smiles, no rehearsed charm, just presence. We've never met in person before, have we? This time, his eyes locked onto yours. That made the air catch in your lungs. You tried to look away, to step back, but he went on. There's something about the way you carry yourself. A steadiness. Calm. People underestimate that a lot. With a slight nod, he stepped away. Just like that. And still, it felt like you'd just walked through a silent hurricane. That night, as you took off your scrubs and headed home, your steps were slower. His words lingered in your mind like background music. And what bothered you most wasn't the compliment itself. After all, it feels good to be recognized for your work. It was the fact that, even being a man like him, used to power, control, appearances, he saw something in you, and that shook you more than you were ready to admit. You wondered whether it was just praise for your work or some fleeting flirtation. A game he probably knew how to play all too well, but something deep down told you it was more than that this cold, untouchable man was drawing closer, and not by accident. And that put you on high alert, because you knew how dangerous it could be when someone like him started seeing someone like you. From that quick conversation on, he started showing up more. Sometimes you'd spot him walking through the halls with executives, but even from across the floor, his eyes always found yours. It was like the entire hospital disappeared when that happened. The first time, you chalked it up to coincidence. The second time, you tried to ignore it. But the third time, when you saw him casually leaning against the nurse's station while you were typing reports, you knew it wasn't a fluke. "Everything good over here?" he asked, way too casually for a CEO. You gave a brief, polite response, keeping things formal. He asked a few more questions, nothing outside of protocol. But his eyes, they said something else. There was curiosity, attention, like he was trying to figure out who you were beyond the scrubs. A few days later, during a meeting with the nursing team, he showed up to give a short institutional speech. You were sitting quietly at the back of the room. He spoke about ethics, humanized care, excellence in service. But at one point, his eyes landed on you, and even though he kept addressing the whole team, it felt like every word was meant for you. Your hands heated up, even without any touch. His presence started affecting you more than you wanted to admit. When you saw him, your heart raced. When you didn't, you found yourself wondering where he was. And that scared you and irritated you because you knew yourself. You knew how to protect your heart. You knew how to stay grounded. But him, he made the rules blur. Then the rumors started. "Looks like the big boss has been hanging around the nurse's station a lot lately, huh?" A coworker said with a half smile. "They say he's been involved with other staff before, and it never ended well," another muttered with a warning glance. Those words hit you like needles. You wondered, were you being naive for imagining things? Were you just another name on his list? Were you mistaking politeness for interest? That night, you couldn't fall asleep. His words still echoed in your mind. The way he'd complimented you with that deep, steady, almost tender voice. The way he looked at you. And now, the weight of other people's judgment was starting to seep into your thoughts. You didn't want to get involved, not with someone like him. A man surrounded by power, secrets, and games. You knew this kind of story, and you knew how it usually ended. But no matter how hard you tried to deny it, you were feeling something, and that was worse than any rumor, because what you felt wasn't simple. It was deep interest. A restlessness born from the way he looked at you, like he could see who you were, even when you forgot. And that's where the danger lies. It's not him who threatens you. It's the part of you that starts to want to be seen and desired. But given the risks to your career, you decided to pull away. You avoided his gaze, skipped shifts where he might be around, refused to entertain coworkers who just wanted to stir up gossip. You did what you always did best. Built walls. Only this time, even higher. But like always, he showed up when you least expected it. You were leaving the hospital. Almost midnight. A cold drizzle was falling from the sky. You ran toward the parking lot, trying to shield the papers in your arms, and there he was, leaning against his car. Serious expression, shoulders damp from the rain. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at you. You thought about walking right past him, but then he stepped forward. "I'm not going to hold you here, but I need to say something." His voice was softer than usual, missing its usual edge. You stopped. The sound of rain filled the space between you. "I'm not great at this," he continued. "I've never really had to explain myself to anyone. I've always been the guy who makes decisions, gives orders. But I really want to get to know you better. You've caught my attention in a way I can't explain," he said. You crossed your arms, trying to stay composed. "Get to know me? I've heard things about you. About other women here, and how it all ended." He nodded. Didn't try to deny it. "Some of it's true. Some of it's twisted. But I never meant to hurt anyone." Your stomach tightened. Part of you wanted to believe him. Another part felt foolish for even standing there, listening to all this. "And what about that nurse who got transferred?" You finally asked, the question that had been stuck in your throat for days. He sighed, soaked and tired. "She threatened me with false accusations when she realized I didn't want to continue. Said she'd ruin my reputation. I reacted out of anger. And maybe I was cruel." He paused. "But I genuinely want to get to know you better. And I won't hurt you in any way." You stayed silent. His words sounded real, unrehearsed. And there was something in his eyes, a mix of fear and sincerity, that completely disarmed you. Your heart pounded harder. "You look at me in a way I didn't think anyone would ever look at me again," you whispered, a little embarrassed. He gave a faint smile. "Then maybe we're in the same place. Afraid of something we've never had." The rain started coming down harder. You said goodbye with the smallest wave and got into your car. But even there, hands gripping the wheel, it felt like you'd just crossed an invisible line. You still didn't know what to do. But denying that you felt something, or that he wanted you, was no longer possible. In the days that followed, you tried to stay focused. But your body and mind betrayed you. Your hands would tremble slightly when his name appeared in internal messages. Your heart would race at the sound of firm footsteps in the halls, even when it wasn't him. And deep down, part of you hoped to see him again. Another part dreaded it. The decision to keep your distance was rational, logical, professional. But that night, logic stopped making any sense. You were on duty, covering for a coworker's night shift. The hospital was quieter than usual, and the night felt endless. Around 2 a.m, the cafeteria was empty. You sat with a cup of tea trying to clear your thoughts. And then, he walked in. No announcement, no CEO posture, no security detail. Just him, tie loosened, expression tired, and eyes locked on you. You froze, unsure where to look. Your heart picked up its pace again. "I thought you'd be home by now," he said, voice low, heavy with exhaustion, and something else. "I'm covering a shift," you replied, trying to sound neutral and friendly. But your breathing was already off. He walked over slowly, stopped beside you but kept a respectful distance. "I didn't just happen to be here," he admitted. "I found out you'd be on tonight." You looked at him, surprised. "And why did you want to come?" There was silence. A thick, intimate kind of silence. "Because I'm tired of pretending this isn't happening," he said, the words falling between you like a whisper. He bent down a little, just enough to be at eye level. His gaze locked onto yours. Steady, but not forceful. "I know what people say about me, and I know what you try to hide when you look at me. But if you tell me you don't feel anything, and that you don't want this, I'll walk away." You didn't answer. You couldn't. Your heart was pounding in your chest. One by one, your defenses were crumbling. And then, he leaned in, slowly. His hand gently touched your face, as if asking for permission. The touch was soft, but set your skin on fire. And before you could think your way out of it, your lips met his. The kiss was deep, but restrained. There was no rush, only tension. The kind of surrender that only comes when the desire is overwhelming, and the fear is even greater. Time stopped for a few seconds. And when his lips pulled away, his eyes stayed right there, drenched in yours. But then, a sharp sound shattered the moment. The cafeteria door closing. You turned your head just in time to see a supervisor walking past, clipboard in hand, giving you a look that said everything without saying a word. Reality hit you like a bucket of cold water. You both stepped back. He straightened his jacket. You stood there frozen, the taste of the kiss still on your lips, and the weight of the consequences already settling on your shoulders. He said goodbye, reassuring you that you didn't need to worry about anything. But that didn't calm you. The next morning, the hospital halls felt different. People's eyes lingered on you a little longer. Their smiles had undertones of judgment. No one said a word, but somehow, everyone seemed to know. And that's when it hit you. Whatever was growing between you wasn't just risky. It was a real threat. Before your shift even ended, your name was called to the supervisor's office. The atmosphere was too quiet, too formal for something routine. The administrative director was waiting, wearing a measured expression that felt almost rehearsed. "We've been hearing rumors," she said bluntly. "I advise you to stay away from situations that could damage your professional image." You listened without breaking eye contact. You didn't deny it, but you didn't confirm it either. And you walked out of there with steady legs, but a heart in chaos. That same day, a message popped up on your hospital phone. "I'm waiting for you in parking lot G. Please don't ignore this." Your first instinct was to delete it, but something inside you obeyed. There he was, leaning against his usual black car, arms crossed, expression more tense than arrogant. As soon as he saw you, he cut to the point. "Are they putting pressure on you?" You nodded, jaw clenched. "I'll handle it," he said firmly, sharply, no sugarcoating. "But first, I need to know, do you regret what happened?" You took a deep breath. You wanted to say yes, that it was all a mistake, that it'd be better if you both just went back to the way things were. But the words wouldn't come out. He stepped closer, eyes locked on yours. "If you say you don't want this anymore, I'll stop right now. But don't ask me to pretend this isn't real, because it is. And it's already gone beyond just desire." You didn't answer. You let the silence speak for you. He walked you to your car door and said once more, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." Then kissed you softly and said goodbye. The next day, you noticed subtle shifts in the hallways. The supervisor who'd looked at you with judgment now simply looked away. A memo was sent to the entire staff, forbidding personal comments during work hours. And the rumors started to vanish. At the end of your shift, you found a plain envelope on your desk with a handwritten note inside. "No one's going to hurt you, not while I can stop it." And behind the note, a printed form, a department transfer request signed by him, moving you out of the spotlight without affecting your position. You smiled, feeling something you didn't expect in that moment. Safety. He also sent you a short message on your phone. No drama, no build-up. "Tonight, after your shift, nothing formal, just us." You hesitated, weighed the consequences, thought about the rules, the glances, the whispered words in the halls. But in the end, you replied with a simple, "Okay." He was there, waiting in a different car this time. Discreet, tinted windows, a soft jazz playlist playing in the background. He opened the door, looked into your eyes and said, "You don't have to worry. Tonight, you're not a nurse, and I'm not a CEO. We're just two tired people, looking to breathe." Dinner was at a small, cozy spot, dim lighting, the scent of wine in the air, no paparazzi, no stiff collars, just him, different, relaxed, laughing freely, telling stories you never imagined hearing from someone like him. He opened up about a lonely childhood, a father who confused control with affection, and how success was the only way he ever felt seen. "I learned how to be needed, never how to be loved," he said with a bitter smile. You didn't reply. You just reached across the table and placed your hand over his, as if trying to hold space for his moment of vulnerability. And he didn't pull away. On the way back, the silence between you was warm, but not heavy. In the elevator to his apartment, your shoulders brushed, and the heat was unmistakable. When the door closed behind you, your eyes met again. And this time, there was no restraint. The kiss came with a quiet urgency. Your bodies sought each other like they'd waited years for this moment. He led you to the bedroom, but not in a rush. Every movement was an invitation. Every touch, a question. And you said yes to all of them. There, between sheets and breathless pauses, you felt more than desire. You felt connection. You felt surrender. And above all, you felt seen, fully, with all your layers, all your scars. Later, lying beside him, your heart still racing, you heard something you didn't expect. "I've always had everything, but I've never had the chance to be myself in front of a woman." You turned your head and found his eyes, vulnerable, but still intense. "I don't want to just be a pause in your life," you said, the words slipping out before you even thought them through. He didn't hesitate. "You're the reason I want to start over." That night, you fell asleep in the arms of a man the world saw as untouchable. And you discovered that deep down, all he really wanted was to be accepted for who he truly was, by someone who wouldn't bow to his last name. Things shifted between you after that night. There was no more pretending, no more polite distance disguised as professionalism. Now, there were quick touches in the elevator, messages laced with double meanings during shifts, and glances that lingered far too long to go unnoticed. You became close in a way time can't quite explain. He knew your break schedule, your favorite tea flavors, the way your brow furrowed when you were exhausted, and you could already tell when his gaze hardened from pressure, or softened because of you. But your relationship lived in a parallel space. It was intense, but hidden, real, but dangerous. One Saturday afternoon, he took you to his beach house, a private place no one knew about. There, free from lab coats and sterile hallways, you allowed yourselves to just be. No titles, no roles. You walked barefoot on the wet sand, laughed at nothing, drank wine while staring at the sea. And that night, his touch was different. It wasn't just desire, it was reverence. He looked at you like you were sacred, like for a moment, the only thing that existed in the world was you. But the next day, reality hit like a punch to the gut. An anonymous email landed in the administrative office, with photos. It was obvious someone wanted to take you down. You didn't see the images, but you felt the shift. The closed door meetings, the colder looks, the tension in the air behind the scenes. He was furious, launched an investigation to trace the email, revoked parts of the team's access to internal systems. And through it all, he still made time to shield you. "I'll take care of this," he said with no room for argument, "but I need you to trust me, all the way." And you did. You trusted the way he touched you, the way he looked at you, the silence you shared. But you also knew, out there were people who would do anything to sink what you two had. And if it sank, you knew you'd go down with it. The following week, a high-profile patient canceled an expensive procedure. The reason? She cited institutional insecurity. The board blamed the rumors swirling around the two of you. That night, he showed up at your place. Wrinkled suit. Tired eyes, heavy with something more than just exhaustion. You couldn't understand how a patient would be bothered by your situation, or even know about it. Then he told you. The patient was the mother of a woman he had once dated. And suddenly, everything made sense. "They're trying to get to you to break me," he said, voice filled with the weight of experience. "But if I give in, I lose more than the hospital. I lose you." You stepped closer, touched his face, and said, "I don't want you to fight for me. I want you to fight for us, if you can." And he whispered, "I already am. But this time, I'm scared of losing." The quiet threats had turned into unbearable noise. The board demanded answers. Investors started showing signs of discomfort. His spotless image, built with surgical precision over the years, was starting to crack. And at the center of it all was you. It was on a Monday morning that everything truly fell apart. The photo, clear as day. The two of you, hand in hand, walking out of the beach house. Published on a corporate scandal blog under the headline, "The Hospital Empire's Owner and the Mysterious Nurse." The story went viral. The headline hinted at favoritism, gold digging. The comments were brutal. Anonymous messages started flooding in. You became a target. And he, the man who had always been in control, was summoned to an emergency board meeting. By the end of the day, he showed up in the nurses' station. His eyes were steady, but filled with fatigue and fury. "My father was there," he said, as if spitting venom. And not satisfied with humiliating me in front of the board, he went as far as to give me an ultimatum. He paused. "Either I end this, or he sells off his share of the company to avoid damaging the business." You swallowed hard. "And what are you going to do?" He ran a hand through his hair, a quiet gesture of frustration. "I've spent my whole life trying to please that man, shaping every move, every decision, to keep the empire he always believed was his alone. But now," he looked right into your eyes, "now I finally understand what's worth fighting for." You stepped closer, unsure, caught in the weight of it all. "I don't want to be the reason for a war. I don't want you to lose everything because of me." He held your face gently. "You're not the cause. You're the answer." That night, he wrote the official statement. He informed the board he would take full responsibility. He'd buy out his father's shares if necessary. He'd restructure the management model, but he wouldn't give you up. The news spread quickly. The rumors were soon replaced by respect. Some criticized him, others admired him. But no one dared question his courage. You, on the other hand, felt everything. The weight, the fear, the quiet joy. And for the first time, you let yourself dream of a kind of love that didn't come with empty promises, but with real choices. The empire didn't crumble. In fact, after the initial chaos, the storm began to settle. What had once been questioned now looked like strength. Investors repositioned themselves. The board, faced with his boldness and willingness to take risks, backed off. As for his father, he didn't need to pull his shares. He saw his son's decision was genuine and chose to respect it. But not everything went back to normal. You were still watched, judged. Even if no one said anything outright, the atmosphere around you demanded twice as much. Like you were always being tested. That's when, on a quiet night, he took you to see a piece of land on the outskirts of the city. A wide open space surrounded by trees and the distant sound of a highway. "I want to build a clinic here," he said. "A place where care isn't just a business, where the right people are here, for the right reasons." You looked at him, trying to understand. "And what does that have to do with me?" He gave you that rare smile, the one that only came when he was being truly honest. "Because this place only makes sense, if you're in it." Your heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a proposal to run away. It was an invitation to start again, with roots. He didn't want to leave everything behind. He wanted to transform it, to build something new, with you by his side. You made me see I can create something where power doesn't push people away, but welcomes them. And I want to do that. With you. He paused. If you want to, of course. You looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, then reached for his hand. I don't need promises. But if we're going to walk this path, let it be with someone who won't ask me to hide. And right there, in the middle of that empty plot of land, something was planted. Not just a project, but a bond. The certainty that the love between you two wasn't made to survive in the shadows, but to bloom, even under the brightest lights. Months passed. The clinic came to life. A modern, welcoming space, focused on humanized care, just as you both had dreamed. He invested not just money, but time, presence, and purpose. And for the first time, it wasn't the cold CEO giving interviews. It was the man who believed in the change you were building together. You left the hospital with your head held high. Not because you were forced out, but because you knew your path was now heading in a new direction. One that didn't diminish you, didn't judge you, didn't hide you. You were still a nurse, with pride and with grit, but now in a place where you were recognized, not whispered about. Beside him, you discovered a lightness that once felt impossible. The relationship wasn't perfect. You still argued, disagreed, had hard days. But everything was lived in truth, love, and desire. He remained at the helm of the empire, more strategic, more respected. But now, with you at his side, he was different. Not the untouchable man everyone feared, but the one who, when he got home, put down his phone, wrapped his arms around you, and whispered, "You're the only part of my day that makes me forget who I am out there." You didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Time did that for you. And when, on a calm late afternoon, he handed you a document with both your names as partners in the new clinic, you understood. It wasn't about sharing assets. It was about sharing purpose. "I don't want this to be mine alone. I want it to be ours," he said, with that steady voice that always made the world disappear. You smiled, eyes welling with tears. He pulled you close and said, "I had never met anyone who could truly see who I am on the inside, and still want to stay. But after you, everything changed." Rain slid slowly down the penthouse windows, soft streaks tracing the night. Outside, the city rushed on. But inside that apartment, everything was still. You were sitting on the couch, wrapped in a light blanket, holding a warm mug in your hands. He walked over quietly, sat beside you, and watched you for a few moments before saying anything. But he didn't need to. His fingers touched yours, gentle, steady, and in that touch, everything was there. No speeches, no promises, just presence. He lifted your hand to his lips and kissed your palm, closing his eyes as if the gesture itself were a silent prayer. You felt your heart warm. It was as if, after so many storms, your love had finally found a home in what no longer needed to be said. "You know what scares me the most?" he whispered, not looking directly at you. You waited. That it took me so long to understand that love doesn't need to be grand, full of spotlights or tied to money. It just needs to be real. You leaned your head on his shoulder and smiled. There, in that unglamorous moment, with no audience, no masks, was everything you'd ever wanted. A real love. Outside, the storm kept going. But inside that embrace, time had stopped, and everything was exactly as it was meant to be. This brings us to the end of another story from the You Protagonist series. I hope this story touched your heart. Now tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? And which story would you love to star in next? I'll be waiting for your comment.